For thousands of years, Earth had drifted alone in the vast emptiness of space, a small, blue and green speck overlooked by the galaxy. Most civilizations had forgotten it, or they had never truly noticed it. It was recorded in alien archives as a quiet, peaceful, and insignificant world, a place too weak to bother with, too small to hold value. Historians wrote of it as empty of influence, a planet without fleets, without shields, without weapons that could harm a single star system. To the galaxy, it was nothing more than a footnote in the history of civilizations that spanned thousands of light-years. But humans were never ordinary. Humanity had survived what no other species could endure, living quietly on a fragile planet, isolated from the cosmos, yet resilient in ways the galaxy could not measure. And beneath their feet, hidden from the eyes of the universe, something extraordinary slumbered. Something alive. Something that had waited for centuries, for millennia, in silence, hidden under mountains, oceans, and cities, undisturbed by time or curiosity. It was patient. It was powerful. And now, unknown to the galaxy, it was beginning to stir. Strange signals began to appear at the edge of the solar system. Unexplained energy pulses that no alien sensors could fully decode. Machines designed to map space and detect technology faltered when they approached the planet. Instruments reported patterns that defied all known physics. Navigation arrays twisted, star charts warped, and the laws of reality seemed to bend around the edges of Earth's orbit. Scouts sent to investigate often disappeared entirely. Ships vanished without a trace, leaving no debris, no record, no explanation. Observers whispered of anomalies, mysterious lights that appeared at night, sudden gravitational shifts that threw ships off course, and faint, pulsing waves that felt alive. Most civilizations ignored these signs. Many dismissed them as coincidence, as sensor errors, as natural cosmic phenomena. Others whispered about a curse, a strange distortion in the fabric of space around Earth. Only a few dared to suggest the truth. Humans had kept a secret for thousands of years, something that had remained hidden while empires rose and fell, something powerful enough to challenge the strongest fleets, the largest weapons, and the most advanced technology. From deep underground, in the bowels of Earth's crust, something ancient awakened. Its consciousness stretched slowly, sensing distant movements in the galaxy, feeling the presence of ships, satellites, and scouts that were approaching with curiosity and arrogance. It had slept for centuries, but never in forgetfulness. It had observed silently as civilizations rose, invaded, and destroyed entire planets. It had learned. It had calculated. And it had waited for the precise moment to act. Above the surface, humans went about their daily lives, unaware of the stirring beneath them. Cities thrived, forests stretched quietly, oceans swirled with calm. Yet, in certain places, people began to notice strange events. Animals acted differently, migrating unusually, reacting to forces invisible to the human eye. Seismic sensors recorded tremors that did not originate from tectonic shifts. Weather patterns seemed subtly altered. In remote scientific research stations, instruments detected faint waves of energy emanating from deep below the planet, inexplicable patterns that scientists could not yet understand. Those who studied the skies noticed strange pulsations near the edges of the solar system, faint signals that appeared and disappeared as if the planet itself were communicating in a language no one had learned. Across distant star systems, alien empires took notice. Scouts, explorers, and spies reported unusual disturbances near Earth. Some called it interference. Others, more cautious, called it a warning. The more experienced observers felt a quiet fear. Fleets that had once faced the destruction of entire star systems now hesitated. They could not explain the phenomena, and their instruments failed in subtle but undeniable ways. Pilots whispered about invisible forces that slowed their ships without mechanical explanation. Commanders debated frantically, unsure if the anomaly was natural or artificial, dangerous or benign. Few dared to admit the terrifying possibility they had underestimated Earth. Reports began to converge. Missing ships. Unfamiliar energy readings. Distorted navigation. Strange gravitational shifts. Odd luminous patterns in space that moved in organized, deliberate formations. The galaxy began to murmur. Scholars in distant systems reviewed old records, dusty histories, ancient myths, and fragmented legends about a world that had been isolated and hidden. Some dismissed the stories as fiction. Others considered that humanity had kept a secret beyond imagination, a secret that might explain the anomalies. And the more they studied, the more the evidence pointed to one truth: Earth was not just an ordinary planet. It had been hiding something powerful, something alive, something waiting. The Guardian, as it would later be called by humans, stretched its awareness further. It sensed approaching alien fleets, distant probes, and curious explorers who thought they could examine this planet without consequence. It watched them calculate, measure, and plan, all in ignorance. It did not act yet. Its patience was infinite. It needed observation, precision, and timing. Every probe it detected, every scout that approached, every subtle vibration in space contributed to its understanding of the galaxy's intentions. And the galaxy, unknowingly, was walking into its awakening. Even the humans closest to discovering the truth remained unaware. They studied energy readings, analyzed data from space telescopes, and investigated unusual magnetic patterns, but they could not comprehend the depth of what was buried beneath them. Their understanding was limited, fragmented, incomplete. The Guardian's awakening was beyond comprehension. Its existence could not be measured by science, nor its intentions predicted by logic. It was life beyond life, intelligence beyond technology, a force older than humanity itself, and it was now stirring to meet the universe it had watched for millennia. The first ships to approach Earth's orbit began to experience malfunctions. Systems designed to be flawless failed. Engines stuttered without reason. Energy weapons discharged erratically or not at all. Communication arrays crackled with interference that could not be traced. Alien crews whispered, terrified of the invisible hand that seemed to control space itself. Their arrogance, the assumption that a small, insignificant planet posed no threat, was being punished without a single shot fired. In the cities of Earth, strange phenomena continued. People reported seeing lights in the sky, unexplained atmospheric anomalies, and a sudden sense of unease, a feeling that something ancient had stirred beneath them. Scientists could not explain why sensitive instruments detected energy fluctuations in solid rock miles beneath the surface. Seismographs picked up rhythmic pulses that did not match earthquakes. Oceans, lakes, and rivers moved subtly, as if responding to a call from deep below. And in quiet moments, the planet itself seemed to hum, vibrating with anticipation, a hidden heartbeat reaching through the very crust of the Earth. In distant star systems, alien leaders grew frustrated. Orders were given, fleets dispatched, and advanced technology deployed to investigate the strange signals. Yet, all attempts failed. The signals could not be decoded. Ships were displaced by invisible forces. Calculations that had once predicted outcomes flawlessly now produced contradictions, anomalies, and impossible results. Explorers who had faced supernovae, black holes, and entire alien armadas now hesitated. They felt a quiet, inexplicable dread. Something powerful, ancient, and alive existed on Earth, something they had ignored for too long. The Guardian continued to awaken, slowly expanding its awareness. It felt the arrogance of alien civilizations, the curiosity of explorers, and the hidden intentions of fleets that assumed they could challenge a small, unarmed world. Every calculation it made was precise. Every movement it observed contributed to its strategy. It did not strike. Not yet. Its patience was perfect. Its restraint was terrifying. It allowed the galaxy to reveal its own weaknesses, its own assumptions, its own pride. And the first whispers of fear began to spread, quietly, among the fleets. They had underestimated Earth. Humans, for the most part, remained unaware of what was truly happening beneath their feet. They went about their lives, commuting, working, loving, grieving, and surviving. Yet a subtle connection began to form between them and the Guardian. Sensitive individuals felt an unexplained warmth, a quiet sense of protection, a knowing that something greater than themselves had begun to stir. It was not communication in words. It was feeling, instinct, a deep emotional resonance that they could not understand, yet it comforted them and guided them. Some called it intuition. Others, dreams. But it was the Guardian, reaching out, connecting to the people it had been tasked to protect for millennia. And now, the galaxy was about to test itself. Alien fleets approached, curiosity mixing with arrogance. They assumed the humans were alone, weak, insignificant, incapable of threat. They assumed they could explore, observe, or even attack without consequence. They were wrong. The Guardian, hidden for thousands of years, was aware of every movement, every calculation, every intention. It had waited patiently, unseen, unheard, and underestimated. It had survived in silence, learning the patterns of life above, understanding the galaxy beyond, and calculating the precise moment for awakening. That moment had arrived. The first fleet reached Earth's orbit, and yet, nothing happened. No weapons fired. No shields flared. The humans continued their lives, oblivious to the full danger above. But the Guardian had begun its subtle influence. Ships were displaced without explanation. Engines stuttered. Energy readings fluctuated. Pilots felt sudden dizziness, fatigue, and fear. Communication links failed. They had crossed into a space where reality obeyed rules they could not understand, controlled by something alive, ancient, and more powerful than they could imagine. The galaxy, for the first time in millennia, began to realize that Earth was not ordinary. The planet that had been isolated, ignored, and dismissed held a secret that could not be measured, ignored, or challenged. And deep beneath its surface, the Guardian stirred fully awake, its consciousness stretching through rock, water, and soil, reaching into the minds of those above, preparing for the moment when the world would finally confront the universe. It did not strike. Not yet. It waited. Observed. Calculated. And in that waiting, the galaxy began to understand its mistake. Humans had survived, not because they were weak, but because they had hidden something older, wiser, and infinitely more patient than any fleet, any weapon, or any empire. The first part of this story had begun. The galaxy's curiosity, its arrogance, and its fear would collide with the truth the humans had kept hidden for millennia. And the consequences would be felt across the stars, forever changing the balance of power, and revealing a secret that could never again remain buried. The galaxy had long dismissed Earth as insignificant, but that assumption was about to shatter in ways no empire could anticipate. The strange energy readings at the edge of the solar system grew stronger with each passing day. They pulsed rhythmically, faint at first, almost like a heartbeat, then louder, more insistent, reaching across light years to the farthest sentinels of the galaxy. Instruments that were supposed to measure stars, radiation, and cosmic phenomena began to record anomalies that made no sense. Frequencies fluctuated, gravitational readings warped, and navigational arrays malfunctioned in ways that engineers could not explain. Ships approaching Earth were slowed inexplicably, drifting slightly off course as if the vacuum of space itself resisted their presence. Explorers and scouts reported strange visual phenomena. Lights appeared near the orbit of the planet, brilliant streaks that moved with intelligence, changing colors, forming patterns that defied any known physics. Pilots saw shadows where there should be none, felt pressure on their minds, a subtle dread that left their hearts pounding and their hands trembling. Some whispered to one another in fear, claiming that the planet itself was watching, that Earth had a consciousness hidden beneath its surface. Superstitious whispers spread quietly through ships' crews, while the officers tried to dismiss them as stress, fatigue, or hallucinations. But deep inside, every observer felt the same gnawing unease, a fear that something ancient, unseen, and alive had noticed them. Alien historians, long removed from first-hand contact with Earth, were forced to revisit old records. They scoured ancient texts, piecing together fragmented myths and half-forgotten stories about a guardian that had once been whispered about in the oldest archives. According to these scattered accounts, Earth had always been special. Not because of its size, its resources, or its fleets, but because it had hidden something extraordinary, something the galaxy had overlooked for millennia. Many dismissed these writings as legend, fairy tales for the curious, yet the signals now being detected suggested a terrifying reality. The myths were true. Earth was not merely a planet. It was a secret, a sleeping force that had remained concealed, and now the galaxy's curiosity had begun to awaken it. The first alien fleet sent to investigate experienced what could only be described as subtle sabotage by a force they could not perceive. Engines stuttered. Navigational systems glitched. Weapons that had never failed suddenly misfired or refused to charge. Pilots felt invisible hands pressing against their controls, altering their trajectories, making even the simplest maneuvers almost impossible. Communications faltered, scrambling in patterns that no codebreaker could decipher. Entire starships, bristling with weapons and shields, were rendered nearly helpless without a visible cause. Panic rippled silently through these fleets. Officers shouted orders that went unheeded. Crews struggled to regain control, but every attempt failed, and fear began to replace confidence. Back on Earth, humans were unaware of the magnitude of the events unfolding above them. Yet subtle effects reached the surface. Animals reacted strangely, birds flew in patterns they had never used before, herds migrated prematurely, and predators avoided territories they had once dominated. Oceans rose slightly at times and receded unpredictably, while winds carried faint, low-frequency hums that unsettled humans without explanation. Even in cities, sensitive people felt unease, an unplaceable tension, a sense that something far older than humanity was stirring beneath their feet. Dreams became more vivid, filled with strange symbols, unfamiliar landscapes, and the echo of a presence both protective and immense. Some humans began to notice patterns. Scientists tracking cosmic anomalies recorded signals that pulsed with a rhythm similar to biological activity. Seismic instruments detected subtle vibrations miles underground that had no geological explanation. In remote observatories, researchers debated theories of energy fields, magnetism, or even alien technology. No one suspected the full truth. The Guardian, an intelligence older than human memory, had awakened, sending its signals across space to probe, measure, and warn. It was testing the galaxy, and it was aware of every observation, every calculation, every approach toward its hidden home. The approaching fleets, sensing the anomalies, attempted to communicate with Earth. Messages were sent through every known channel, from radio frequencies to quantum entanglement arrays, yet none were received. Every attempt at contact failed. Signals were distorted, rerouted, or absorbed entirely. Alien leaders were baffled. They assumed they were encountering interference, perhaps natural phenomena, perhaps an unknown form of cosmic weather. They did not yet realize that these failures were deliberate, controlled by a force far beyond their comprehension. The Guardian did not need weapons. It only needed to exist, to watch, to influence, and the consequences were immediate and terrifying. In the deepest underground chambers, the Guardian expanded its awareness. It calculated the intentions of every approaching ship, weighed the intelligence of their commands, and sensed the emotions of every pilot and officer. It felt fear, arrogance, curiosity, and desperation all at once. It did not act with anger. It did not strike with violence. Instead, it prepared. It assessed, measured, and shaped the environment to make the galaxy aware of its presence. Ships found themselves subtly off course. Energy readings fluctuated. Sensors were scrambled. Crews began to whisper of ghosts controlling their instruments, of a planet alive with intelligence. And these were only the earliest signs. The Guardian's actions were precise. No life was threatened yet. No ships were destroyed. Its purpose was not revenge or conquest, it was protection and preparation. Every anomaly, every failure, every unexplainable event was a calculated message. Humans were not alone, and the galaxy's assumptions about Earth were dangerously incorrect. The creatures who had once considered it insignificant were now confronted with subtle evidence of something far greater. Their fear grew quietly, but steadily, spreading from ship to ship, fleet to fleet. In the command centers of alien fleets, officers grew frantic. They studied data that contradicted itself. Ships that had been in formation suddenly drifted apart, engines refusing to respond. Pilots lost time perception, seeing events move too quickly or too slowly. Calculations for fuel, trajectory, and attack plans became unreliable. Those who trusted machines began to doubt their own judgment. Those who relied on instinct found it unreliable. And in the quiet moments, when the stars stretched endlessly before them, they felt it, the invisible weight of an intelligence far older, far stronger, and far more deliberate than anything they had ever faced. Back on Earth, humans experienced the consequences without understanding them. Satellites malfunctioned, unusual auroras appeared in the skies, and subtle gravitational shifts caused minor disturbances on land and in the seas. Sensitive individuals sensed a presence, a quiet and powerful awareness beneath their feet. It did not frighten them outright, it comforted some, unnerved others. Dreams and visions intensified, glimpses of strange structures far below the surface, pulsing with energy, and patterns that humans could not yet decode. They did not understand the scale, the intention, or the full power of what was awakening, yet they felt connected to it, instinctively, emotionally, profoundly. The first explorers who survived their approach to Earth returned with fragmented stories. They spoke of instruments failing, strange visions, and an overwhelming sense that the planet itself was alive. Officers dismissed these as hallucinations caused by stress, but the stories spread. Across the galaxy, the murmurs began. The humans were hiding something, something ancient and powerful. Some suggested that Earth's myths were true. Others feared what had once been dismissed as legend. The pulse of signals, the strange anomalies, the disappearance of scouts, it all pointed to the same terrifying conclusion: humans were not ordinary, and Earth was not ordinary. The Guardian continued its subtle manipulation. Its presence extended through space around the planet, sensing, testing, measuring, preparing. It did not act with haste. It observed the approach of alien fleets, the reactions of their pilots, and the decisions of their leaders. It watched curiosity and arrogance mix with fear and hesitation. It allowed the galaxy to make its first mistakes, to experience uncertainty, to feel the consequences of underestimating a hidden force. Humanity, largely unaware of the scale of what was happening, remained focused on survival and understanding. Scientists recorded anomalies they could not explain. Astronomers documented signals they could not interpret. Philosophers and spiritual leaders speculated about the strange sensations spreading across the planet. Dreams filled with alien landscapes, strange energy, and patterns that defied known mathematics became more common. Children spoke of imaginary guardians beneath the ground, animals acted as if aware of something invisible, and a quiet sense of protection began to spread across the human population, even if they did not yet know its source. As fleets lingered near Earth, hesitant and fearful, alien leaders argued, debated, and panicked. They could not understand the anomalies. They could not explain the malfunctioning of their instruments. They could not predict the actions of the invisible force influencing space around the planet. Their arrogance had blinded them, and now their pride was being systematically dismantled, not by attack, but by observation, by disruption, by the undeniable presence of something ancient and intelligent. The Guardian's subtle influence became stronger. Ships found themselves gently pushed away from Earth's orbit, engines struggling, sensors failing, communications disrupted. Pilots began reporting impossible readings, stars appearing in wrong positions, time seeming to bend, energy patterns forming and reforming in ways that could not be explained. Fear spread quietly, steadily, across the galaxy. Some fleets withdrew. Some stayed, driven by curiosity or defiance. But all felt it, the quiet, patient, deliberate force beneath the surface of a blue and green planet, waiting for the moment it would no longer remain hidden. And in that waiting, the galaxy began to learn a lesson it would never forget: humans were not weak. Earth was not ordinary. And the forces they had ignored, underestimated, or dismissed for millennia were waking. The galaxy had been watching Earth for centuries without realizing it, but now it began to feel the consequences of its ignorance. Alien fleets hovering near the planet's orbit were no longer simply exploring, they were intruding. And something ancient, something intelligent and powerful, was stirring beneath the surface. It was a presence so subtle yet immense that the stars themselves seemed to bend in its awareness. Ships that had approached confidently now hesitated. Instruments, calibrated to perfection, failed. Pilots who had faced storms, asteroid fields, and cosmic radiation panicked when even the simplest maneuvers went wrong. Navigation arrays flickered, engines stuttered, and communications became unreliable, as if invisible hands were moving through space itself. Beneath the mountains, under the oceans, and deep within the crust of Earth, the Guardian awoke fully for the first time in millennia. It stretched its consciousness like ripples across the surface of a pond, sensing the ships, scanning the intentions of those above, reading the emotions of every alien pilot and every human unknowingly connected to it. The Guardian was not mechanical. It was not constructed. It was alive, intelligent, ancient, and patient beyond understanding. Every movement it made was deliberate. Every response was calculated. It did not seek conflict, yet it commanded power that no fleet could resist. Its existence alone sent waves of fear through space. The first scouts to approach Earth's orbit felt it immediately. Ships began drifting off course without explanation. Engines faltered. Sensors recorded impossible anomalies. Pilots reported visions of strange structures beneath the planet, glowing with light that was not natural, pulsing with energy that seemed alive. Many dismissed these visions at first, blaming fatigue or stress. But as the events continued, one thing became undeniable: the planet itself was not ordinary. Something beneath its surface was aware, and it was interacting with the galaxy in ways no one could comprehend. On Earth, humans remained largely unaware. Most went about their daily lives, commuting, working, learning, and living without realizing the ancient power stirring below. Yet some individuals felt something strange, an unexplainable sense of presence, a protective hum beneath their feet, a pull in their hearts that they could not understand. Dreams became vivid and symbolic, showing landscapes and structures that defied comprehension. Children spoke of unseen guardians, animals acted strangely, and subtle environmental anomalies continued. Sudden shifts in gravity, magnetic disturbances, and low-frequency vibrations that instruments recorded but humans could not explain. Across the galaxy, alien fleets began to panic. The anomalies had intensified. Ships stalled, instruments went offline, and communication arrays became erratic. Even the most experienced officers, those who had conquered entire star systems, admitted privately that something beyond their understanding was occurring. Fear spread quietly, but steadily, through the ranks. Pride and arrogance faltered under the invisible hand of the Guardian. Pilots whispered of ghosts controlling their ships, while commanders argued in desperation over what technology or weapon could counter the impossible. The Guardian did not strike. Not yet. It observed. It calculated. It allowed the intruders to approach, to reveal themselves, to expose the arrogance that had caused them to ignore Earth for centuries. It weighed the emotions and intentions of every living being around the planet: fear, curiosity, defiance, even aggression. And it began to subtly manipulate reality itself to send a message. The engines of approaching ships faltered at the exact moment they needed thrust. Sensors failed just as crews attempted to scan the surface. Communications were scrambled when leaders tried to coordinate. The galaxy felt a power it could not measure, could not fight, and could not escape. On Earth, humans who were sensitive to the Guardian's presence began to feel it more clearly. Some experienced waves of calm, a quiet reassurance that something was protecting them. Others felt anxiety, a sense of tension that grew without clear cause. Scientists detected energy pulses deep beneath the planet, subtle at first but growing steadily. Every pulse corresponded with anomalies in space, sending a silent warning to the intruding fleets: do not underestimate this world. Yet the humans themselves did not yet understand the scale, the intention, or the intelligence of what had been awakened. The first fleets attempted to communicate again, using every known channel. Messages, signals, and complex codes were sent, demanding responses, testing protocols, and attempting to probe Earth's defenses. Each effort failed spectacularly. Signals disappeared, rerouted, or became incomprehensible. Calculations for trajectories, fuel, and attack plans produced contradictions, leaving fleets unable to trust their own technology. Alien commanders, for the first time, realized that their arrogance had been fatal. They had assumed Earth was weak. They had assumed humans were irrelevant. And now, they faced an intelligence beyond measurement, beyond comprehension, and beyond attack. The Guardian's presence was not confined to manipulation alone. It expanded its awareness across the planet, touching humans subtly, connecting them emotionally and spiritually. Those who were attuned felt a strange unity with the energy beneath their feet. Dreams and visions intensified, showing the planet's history, the battles it had endured in secrecy, and the silent sacrifices of humanity. Individuals who had never experienced connection with others felt empathy grow, a shared understanding that the planet was alive, aware, and protective. These humans became inadvertent witnesses to the Guardian's awakening, their lives intertwined with its purpose. Alien fleets, now fully aware that Earth was not as they had assumed, experienced terror on a scale they had never known. Officers fell silent. Crews whispered prayers to gods they did not believe in. Instruments continued to fail, systems stalled, and every attempt to regain control met with invisible resistance. Even the most advanced technology could not counter what was alive beneath the planet. Every sensor, every weapon, every calculation revealed one undeniable truth: the humans they had once considered weak were not alone. And the force protecting them was older, wiser, and infinitely more powerful than anything in the galaxy. The Guardian, sensing the fear of the intruders, did not strike. It did not destroy. Its power was demonstrated through subtle influence, showing the consequences of arrogance without spilling a drop of blood. The fleets that approached had learned a lesson: the universe is patient, and hidden forces are far more dangerous than visible ones. Pride was replaced by caution. Arrogance was replaced by terror. And curiosity, once bold and daring, was tempered by fear. Meanwhile, humans began to notice changes in their environment that could not be explained by science. Animals acted with precision and purpose that suggested intelligence. Weather patterns shifted subtly, aligning with the Guardian's awareness. Even the oceans and rivers seemed to pulse gently, as if the planet itself were breathing. Sensitive individuals experienced visions and dreams of underground chambers filled with strange energy, of symbols and light patterns that defied understanding, and of structures that seemed alive. They felt awe and fear, but also a sense of protection. Something was guarding them. Something ancient, patient, and wise. As the Guardian expanded its awareness further, alien fleets experienced phenomena that challenged everything they believed about reality. Time felt distorted, events seemed to slow, then accelerate unpredictably. Ships experienced invisible forces, causing maneuvers to fail, weapons to misfire, and sensors to misread. Every calculation became unreliable. Pilots lost confidence in instinct and in instruments alike. Alien commanders debated desperately, searching for logic in events that had none. They began to realize a terrifying truth: the planet itself, or something beneath it, was alive, intelligent, and aware of them. For humans, life continued in its ordinary pace, but subtle changes affected the population. Dreams were filled with visions of energy and light deep underground. Some individuals reported hearing soft hums that seemed to vibrate through the soil. Sensitive people felt a bond with the earth that could not be explained scientifically, a connection that was emotional, instinctive, and powerful. They did not yet comprehend that the Guardian was reaching out, forming a silent partnership with humanity, awakening their awareness, and preparing them for what was coming. The galaxy began to realize that it had underestimated the humans. Fleets were immobilized, officers panicked, and scientists struggled to interpret anomalies. Stories spread of strange lights, inexplicable energy patterns, and ships disappearing without reason. Whispers grew into warnings, and every civilization observing Earth began to reconsider what they knew. The legends of the hidden Guardian were no longer myth. The humans were not ordinary, and the planet they called home was alive with intelligence far beyond their comprehension. The Guardian's awakening was deliberate, precise, and terrifyingly effective. It demonstrated restraint yet communicated authority. Alien fleets understood instinctively that they were facing something that could not be fought with weapons, fleets, or technology. Its presence alone conveyed the consequences of arrogance and ignorance. No ship was destroyed, no life was lost, yet fear had spread across light years, reshaping strategies, recalibrating pride, and forcing the galaxy to acknowledge a power it had ignored for millennia. On Earth, humans remained largely unaware, yet their connection to the Guardian grew stronger. Some felt inspiration, courage, and intuition beyond their normal capacity. Others sensed fear, awe, and urgency that could not be explained. Every heartbeat, every dream, every fleeting emotion became part of a quiet awakening. Humanity was being prepared, not for battle alone, but for the recognition that the galaxy had underestimated them, and that survival required awareness, foresight, and resilience beyond measure. The first part of the galaxy's reckoning was over, but the second had only just begun. The Guardian had revealed its presence through subtle, undeniable signs. It had shown that Earth was not ordinary. It had made the intruders pause, hesitate, and fear. And it had begun to awaken the humans themselves to a truth they had never fully realized. Their planet was alive, aware, and protected by a force older than memory, wiser than any civilization, and patient beyond reckoning. The galaxy was learning a lesson it could not ignore. Humans were no longer a footnote. Earth was no longer a quiet planet. And the Guardian had awakened. The galaxy had begun to tremble, though most civilizations did not yet realize it. Alien fleets hovering near Earth were no longer curious explorers, they were intruders. They had assumed arrogance would protect them, that humans were too weak to challenge, too isolated to resist. Yet the moment they crossed the invisible threshold, the first warning came. It was subtle at first, almost like a whisper carried through the void, but it grew stronger, louder, impossible to ignore. Ships approaching the planet's orbit experienced systems failures that no engineer could explain. Engines stuttered as if weighed down by invisible hands. Navigation computers gave conflicting coordinates, leaving pilots disoriented and confused. Communication arrays crackled, splintered, and failed. Officers barked orders that went unanswered. Crews trembled with unease, sensing a presence beyond understanding, something ancient and intelligent that watched every movement and felt every thought. It was not anger, they had not yet provoked it, but it was a force far beyond comprehension. On Earth, the effects were subtle yet undeniable. Sensitive humans experienced sudden unease, a prickling sensation beneath the skin, a sense of being observed. Animals acted strangely, birds abandoned nesting areas, herds fled without reason, and predators avoided their usual hunting grounds. Oceans rippled unnaturally, rivers shifted subtly, and low-frequency vibrations hummed through the ground. Scientists detected energy readings emanating from deep within the planet, waves of power that defied explanation. They debated theories, tectonic anomalies, electromagnetic fields, or previously unknown energy sources. None of their hypotheses came close to the truth. Deep underground, the Guardian expanded its awareness fully. Its consciousness stretched through rock, soil, water, and air. It could feel the emotions of the humans above it, their fears, hopes, and dreams. It could sense the intentions of the alien intruders in orbit. Every calculation, every assessment, every observation was precise. The Guardian did not strike, yet its presence was unmistakable. The first warning had been delivered, and the galaxy felt it in ways no one could ignore. Alien fleets reacted with confusion and fear. Pilots reported impossible phenomena, stars appearing to move, light bending in strange ways, and equipment failing despite being perfectly maintained. Officers argued, tried to regain control, and recalibrate systems, but every attempt failed. Instruments recorded energy fluctuations that did not correspond to any known technology or natural phenomenon. Communication lines became erratic, cutting off reports and leaving fleets isolated in orbit around a planet that seemed alive, aware, and watching. The Guardian's awakening was deliberate, measured, and terrifyingly precise. It did not destroy. It did not attack. It demonstrated power through subtle influence, showing the consequences of arrogance and ignorance. It allowed the galaxy to witness its presence, to feel its awareness, and to realize, for the first time, that Earth was far from ordinary. Humans remained largely unaware, yet a few sensitive individuals felt the Guardian's reach. Dreams grew vivid and symbolic. Visions of underground chambers, glowing energy, and intricate patterns filled their minds. Some saw the Guardian itself, a massive presence beneath the Earth, watching, calculating, and protecting. Across the galaxy, alien leaders struggled to comprehend what they were witnessing. Fleets that had faced supernovae, black holes, and planetary defenses faltered against a force that could not be measured, attacked, or reasoned with. Pride turned to panic. Arrogance became fear. The first warning had been issued, and it left fleets paralyzed with uncertainty. The humans they had underestimated were not alone, and the planet they had dismissed was alive with intelligence and power beyond imagining. On Earth, natural phenomena intensified subtly. Storms shifted unpredictably. Magnetic fields fluctuated. Rivers rose and fell in rhythm with pulses from deep underground. Sensitive humans felt a bond with the Guardian that could not be explained scientifically. Children dreamed of strange structures beneath their homes, animals acted with coordination beyond instinct, and elders spoke of intuition and feelings that had no rational origin. The planet itself seemed to breathe, to move, and to resonate with a quiet but undeniable energy. Alien observers recorded these phenomena but could not understand them. Their instruments were unreliable. Their calculations failed. Ships that had once navigated flawlessly now drifted, stalled, or veered off course inexplicably. Crew members reported visions, lights, shadows, patterns in space that seemed alive. Fear spread quietly but relentlessly. Officers debated whether the phenomena were natural, artificial, or divine. They could not grasp the reality. The Guardian was alive, intelligent, and fully aware of every thought, movement, and intention. The first human witnesses to the Guardian's influence felt awe and terror simultaneously. Some experienced dreams of enormous chambers filled with glowing energy, intricate structures, and pulsing light. Others sensed a deep presence beneath their feet, protective yet powerful, terrifying yet comforting. Humanity, for the first time, was becoming aware, emotionally, spiritually, and instinctively, that the world they lived on was not ordinary. Something ancient and wise had been watching over them, waiting for the moment when the galaxy's arrogance would awaken it. Alien fleets, meanwhile, began to withdraw cautiously, driven by fear and uncertainty. Orders were issued to retreat, to regroup, to analyze the anomalies. Yet even as ships moved away, the Guardian's influence followed. It did not strike, but it demonstrated its power clearly. Earth was no longer a secret, and those who underestimated it would pay the price of arrogance. The first warning had been sent, and the galaxy would never be the same. On Earth, humanity continued its daily life, largely oblivious to the cosmic drama unfolding above. Yet subtle signs spread among those sensitive to the Guardian's presence. Animals, storms, magnetic fluctuations, and dreams became part of a quiet awakening. People felt connected to something immense, intelligent, and protective, though they could not yet comprehend its scale. The Guardian's influence reached across the planet, preparing humans emotionally, spiritually, and instinctively for the challenges that were coming. The first warning was clear: the galaxy's arrogance had been noticed, and Earth was protected by a force older than memory, wiser than empires, and infinitely patient. The intruding fleets had learned a lesson in fear, humility, and caution. Humans had yet to understand the full scale of what was awakening beneath them, but they would soon. And when they did, the universe would realize that Earth was never ordinary, and humans were never weak. The Guardian did not celebrate its victory. It did not strike. It had demonstrated restraint, measured its power, and tested the galaxy's response. Its consciousness continued to expand beneath the planet, touching humans subtly, sensing their emotions, and preparing them for what was to come. Dreams became more vivid, instincts sharper, and perceptions heightened. Humanity was awakening, emotionally and spiritually, to the presence that had watched over them for millennia. Above Earth, alien fleets hesitated, confused, and fearful. Their arrogance had been punished without a single act of violence. Their pride had been replaced with dread. And the first warning had reached across the galaxy: humans were not weak, Earth was not ordinary, and the Guardian had awakened. The first warning had been sent, subtle but undeniable, and across the galaxy, ripples of fear began to spread. Alien fleets had retreated, shaken to the core by a force they could not see, measure, or fight. For the humans of Earth, life seemed to continue normally, but beneath the surface, something far older than memory was stirring, expanding its awareness, preparing for the next stage. The Guardian's consciousness moved like a tide beneath the planet, sensing, measuring, and connecting with every living thing. Its awakening sent echoes of energy, vibrations that traveled through space and time, leaving marks on every instrument, every mind, and every heart attuned to its presence. In orbit, ships that had hovered near Earth now hesitated, their crews haunted by the impossible phenomena they had witnessed. Pilots whispered of instruments behaving as though guided by an unseen hand, of lights moving independently in space, of a presence that seemed alive and intelligent. Commanders tried to maintain authority, but the fear among their ranks was tangible, spreading like a virus. Some crews reported visions in the dark of their cabins, glowing structures beneath the planet, tunnels that pulsed with energy, shapes that seemed to breathe. Others heard soft, rhythmic vibrations that resonated through their hulls, almost like a heartbeat. No one understood it, but everyone feared it. On Earth, the Guardian's presence manifested in subtler ways. Animals became attuned to its energy. Birds flew in formations never seen before, coordinating as if following a silent signal. Herds of land animals moved with precision, avoiding danger before it appeared. Predators changed behavior, sensing unseen patterns in their environment. Humans, though largely unaware, experienced dreams filled with visions of glowing chambers, intricate energy grids, and tunnels that seemed alive. Children spoke of strange, protective figures in their sleep, while elders reported intuition and awareness that went beyond normal experience. Even those who dismissed it felt the weight of something immense watching, guiding, and protecting. Scientists, ever curious and persistent, began noticing subtle anomalies. Deep underground energy readings fluctuated in ways no known physics could explain. Magnetic fields shifted unpredictably. Seismic instruments recorded vibrations too consistent to be natural, too precise to be random. Researchers argued and debated, proposing theories ranging from undiscovered geology to new forms of quantum energy. None of their hypotheses captured the truth. The Guardian did not allow humans to see everything at once. It revealed itself in pieces, small threads of understanding, enough to spark curiosity and wonder, but not fear. Across the galaxy, alien leaders convened emergency meetings. Fleets had returned from Earth's orbit with conflicting reports, visions, and anomalies that no strategist could reconcile. Fear and uncertainty replaced pride. Officers argued over interpretations of the strange signals, but consensus was impossible. Some insisted the planet was naturally powerful, others believed it contained hidden technology, and a few whispered the legends of the Guardian that had long been dismissed as myth. Every fleet that attempted close observation suffered system failures, hallucinations, or inexplicable malfunctions. It was becoming increasingly clear, Earth was not ordinary, and humans were not alone in controlling their destiny. The Guardian's awareness extended further, probing the emotions and thoughts of humans. It sensed fear, hope, courage, and curiosity, intertwining with the pulse of the planet itself. Those who were sensitive began to feel an instinctive connection, a protective force watching over them, guiding them subtly, preparing them for challenges they did not yet comprehend. The Guardian's energy flowed like invisible threads, linking human consciousness to its own ancient awareness. Children, whose minds were naturally more receptive, experienced vivid dreams of energy patterns, tunnels, and glowing chambers deep underground. Scientists began experiencing intuition that led to groundbreaking discoveries in energy, magnetism, and physics. In the orbital fleets, fear transformed into hesitation. Commanders who once prided themselves on bravery now found themselves paralyzed by uncertainty. Pilots refused to follow orders, citing impossible readings, strange visions, and vibrations in their ships that could not be explained. Instruments reported conflicting data, stars in the wrong positions, energy fluctuations defying calculation, time seeming to move differently. The Guardian did not attack, but every subtle influence sent a message: Earth is protected. Do not underestimate it. Pride was replaced with dread, arrogance with caution. The galaxy began to understand that the humans they had once ignored were shielded by a force beyond comprehension. On the planet's surface, ordinary humans began noticing small, inexplicable events. Objects moved slightly when no one touched them. Animals reacted as if following an unseen guide. Sensitive individuals reported hearing soft hums resonating through the ground. Dreams grew more intense, showing not just glimpses of tunnels and chambers but of vast, pulsing networks of energy. Some humans awoke in tears, overwhelmed by the sense of something ancient, powerful, and protective. Others felt a quiet joy, a reassurance that they were part of something greater than themselves, connected to the Guardian in ways they did not yet fully understand. The Guardian's subtle influence also reached the minds of those who approached Earth with hostile intent. Alien leaders attempting espionage, sabotage, or reconnaissance found themselves disoriented, doubting their own perceptions. Calculations failed. Instruments misled them. Crews experienced visions and auditory phenomena that left them frightened and confused. Even the most experienced officers could not explain it. Slowly, they began to recognize a terrifying truth: Earth itself, guided by an intelligence older than their history, was aware of every intrusion. Despite the fear and confusion, humans remained largely unaware of the full scope of the awakening. Yet emotional and spiritual growth accelerated quietly across the planet. People began noticing patterns in nature, subtle cues from animals, and inexplicable instincts guiding decisions. Dreams became a language of the Guardian, imparting understanding, warnings, and insights. Children, more attuned to its energy, began showing abilities to perceive danger, navigate unknown situations, and sense hidden structures. Humanity, unknowingly, was being trained, emotionally and mentally, for the reality of a galaxy that had underestimated them. In orbit, alien fleets debated whether to continue their approach or retreat completely. Those driven by curiosity risked defiance. Those driven by fear advocated withdrawal. Every attempt to force the issue resulted in further anomalies. Ships stalled, energy readings spiked, communications were scrambled. It was impossible to predict, impossible to control. The Guardian's influence was subtle yet absolute, demonstrating the futility of arrogance and the power of patience. Pride had been tested and found fragile, fear had been sown, and it would grow as long as humans and their Guardian remained underestimated. The Guardian did not act with violence. Its power was in demonstration and influence, shaping perceptions, guiding humans subtly, and warning intruders of the consequences of underestimation. Every anomaly, every signal, every vision was a carefully orchestrated echo of awakening, a reminder that Earth was protected and humans were never weak. Across continents, oceans, and skies, energy pulses aligned with natural rhythms, enhancing intuition, emotional awareness, and instinctive understanding. Humans were unknowingly learning to perceive the universe differently, preparing for what the galaxy had ignored for centuries. Alien fleets, now fully aware of the mysterious power beneath Earth, faced a choice: retreat or risk confrontation. Pride battled fear, curiosity battled caution. Every approach was met with anomalies that defied logic. Ships stalled mid-flight, sensors displayed impossible readings, and communications failed entirely. Pilots who tried to resist often reported visions, glowing chambers, pulsing energy lines, and strange guardians, leaving them frightened and demoralized. Fear spread not just among individuals but across entire fleets. The galaxy was beginning to learn that Earth's guardianship was not something to challenge lightly. On Earth, the Guardian's influence continued to shape human perception. People who once ignored dreams and intuition began to recognize subtle patterns. Children noticed unseen forces guiding their actions. Scientists experienced flashes of insight that led to discoveries in energy, physics, and the natural world. Even artists and musicians found inspiration in rhythms and structures that mirrored the Guardian's subtle influence. Humanity was awakening, emotionally and spiritually, in sync with the ancient consciousness beneath their feet. The echoes of awakening spread farther, reaching distant civilizations observing Earth. Whispers of the Guardian circulated among scholars, explorers, and historians. Many dismissed the tales as myth, but the anomalies, visions, and signals were undeniable. Fear, awe, and respect grew in equal measure. For the first time, the galaxy had to reconsider its assumptions. Humans were not weak, Earth was not ordinary, and the Guardian's power had awakened, subtle yet undeniable, preparing humanity for the trials that lay ahead. The first stage of awakening had concluded, leaving both humans and aliens forever changed. Humans were beginning to sense a connection to something far greater than themselves, though the full scale remained hidden. Alien fleets had learned fear, humility, and caution. And the Guardian, patient and precise, continued its watch beneath the planet, preparing for the next stage of the galaxy's reckoning. The echoes of awakening had begun, traveling silently across the planet and the galaxy, a reminder that Earth was never weak, humans were never ordinary, and the ancient Guardian would not allow arrogance to go unpunished. The universe had been warned, subtly yet unmistakably, and the consequences of underestimation would grow with every passing moment. The galaxy, vast and arrogant, had always believed it understood power, influence, and fear. Empires that spanned light years had grown confident in their might, fleets bristling with weapons, and minds sharpened by conquest. Yet now, every assumption was shattered. Alien fleets hovering near Earth, once bold and unyielding, found themselves paralyzed by forces they could not see, understand, or predict. Every instrument they trusted malfunctioned. Every calculation they made proved unreliable. And everywhere they looked, subtle evidence reminded them of one terrifying truth: Earth was alive, humans were not alone, and something ancient, intelligent, and infinitely patient had awakened. The Guardian had shifted from mere observation to a deeper awareness, expanding its influence across the planet and into space. It sensed every thought, every movement, every whisper of fear among the intruders. Pilots reported the impossible: stars appearing in wrong positions, light bending unnaturally, and objects in orbit behaving as though controlled by a force of intention. Navigation arrays failed. Engines sputtered. Communications distorted, leaving fleets disoriented and isolated. Even the most disciplined crews could not explain what was happening, and panic began to spread like wildfire. On Earth, humans remained largely unaware of the full scale of events, but subtle signs of the Guardian's awakening reached them in ways they could perceive. Animals moved with extraordinary coordination. Birds formed intricate patterns across the sky, hunting and migrating with precision that suggested intelligence beyond instinct. Herds of land animals shifted in patterns aligned with unseen signals. Even the oceans seemed to pulse in rhythm with the Guardian's awareness, tides subtly influenced, currents moving as if guided by intention. Humans sensitive to energy, intuition, or dreams began to notice patterns they could not explain. Their instincts sharpened. Their perceptions became heightened. And in their hearts, they felt a presence, protective yet immense, silent yet undeniable. Alien fleets, meanwhile, debated whether to retreat or press forward. Pride battled fear, arrogance conflicted with caution. Every approach resulted in failure. Pilots reported visions of underground chambers glowing with energy, corridors alive with pulsing light, and immense forms that seemed to watch them with intelligence. Instruments failed, calculations faltered, and every crew member felt the weight of observation. The Guardian did not strike, but its influence alone was enough to make the intruders doubt their own perceptions. Fear spread not as a firestorm, but as a steady, relentless pressure, eroding confidence and replacing arrogance with hesitation. Deep underground, the Guardian's consciousness stretched further. It connected with humans subtly, touching dreams, emotions, and intuition. Children began to dream vividly of tunnels, chambers, and energy flows beneath the earth. Adults reported unexplainable instincts guiding decisions, moments of sudden clarity, and visions of structures filled with light and power. Scientists experienced breakthroughs in understanding energy, physics, and natural phenomena, yet none fully grasped the source. Humanity, unknowingly, was awakening alongside the Guardian, emotionally and spiritually prepared for the challenges that the galaxy would soon bring. The first visible signs of the Guardian's power reached orbital fleets. Ships that had once hovered confidently over Earth's atmosphere now drifted aimlessly, engines stuttering, instruments failing. Pilots whispered of an invisible hand moving through space, altering their trajectory, manipulating reality itself. Officers tried to maintain control, but arguments and panic replaced clarity. Calculations for fuel, trajectory, and energy output became unreliable. Even the most advanced technology could not counter the subtle but overwhelming influence of the Guardian. As fear spread across fleets, alien leaders realized the truth too late. They had assumed Earth was weak, insignificant, a planet to ignore. They had believed humans were ordinary. And now, they confronted evidence that these assumptions were catastrophically wrong. Ships that had never failed malfunctioned inexplicably. Instruments recorded impossible energy patterns. Communications became unreliable. And pilots, officers, and strategists alike began to whisper the same phrase, "The planet is alive, and it watches us." On Earth, humans experienced a mixture of awe, fear, and emotional connection. Dreams became more vivid, often shared among those attuned to subtle energy. Children began to speak of guardians, of protective presences that guided their steps, of chambers filled with light beneath their homes. Animals responded to the Guardian's awareness, coordinating in ways humans could not yet fully interpret. Rivers, oceans, winds, and magnetic fields pulsed subtly, transmitting messages that could not be understood consciously but were felt emotionally. Humanity, unaware of the full truth, was growing in awareness, intuition, and emotional strength. The Guardian's influence reached further still, touching alien minds subtly. Commanders who attempted espionage, sabotage, or reconnaissance found themselves disoriented, unable to rely on their instruments, their instincts, or even their perceptions. Ships drifted off course. Weapons failed to respond. Communications were garbled or completely silent. Visions of glowing chambers, intricate energy lines, and immense, intelligent forms filled the minds of intruders. The galaxy began to comprehend, slowly and terrifyingly, that Earth was not a weak planet, that humans were not alone, and that an ancient consciousness guided their home. Alien fleets hesitated, fearful of their next move. Orders to advance were met with anomalies that left crews paralyzed. Every attempt to force an outcome was thwarted by invisible but undeniable influence. Pride had been replaced with fear. Arrogance had been replaced with humility. The first warning had been subtle. The second, more insistent. Now, the third stage of awakening was beginning, and the galaxy felt it in every star, every ship, and every mind attempting to understand the impossible. Meanwhile, on Earth, subtle changes continued. Humans who had once ignored dreams and intuition began to notice patterns in nature, animals, and energy. Children saw glimpses of underground chambers, glowing light, and tunnels pulsing with energy. Scientists experienced sudden insight, inventing and discovering phenomena beyond current understanding. Sensitive individuals reported soft hums resonating through the ground, a heartbeat beneath their feet that connected them to the Guardian. Emotionally, humanity was learning, growing, awakening, and preparing for the reality that would soon confront them directly. The Guardian, patient and deliberate, did not strike but prepared. It measured the intentions of every intruder, assessed the responses of humans, and calibrated the unfolding events with precision. Its influence expanded continuously, subtle yet undeniable, shaping emotions, instincts, and awareness. The galaxy began to understand a terrifying truth: humans were never weak, Earth was never ordinary, and the Guardian would not allow arrogance or ignorance to go unchallenged. Alien leaders, despite their advanced technology, began to experience doubt, confusion, and fear. They had underestimated the humans, misjudged Earth, and now faced a power beyond their comprehension. Pilots refused orders. Sensors failed. Calculations produced contradictions. Even communication arrays became unreliable. The galaxy was learning humility in the face of an intelligence that had awakened silently beneath a blue and green world. On Earth, the Guardian's influence continued to manifest in dreams, intuition, and subtle environmental changes. Humans began noticing patterns in nature, energy flows, and instincts guiding decisions they could not rationalize. Children, naturally attuned to the Guardian, began to perceive hidden dangers, navigate unknown paths, and understand subtle energy patterns. Scientists discovered phenomena that seemed impossible, musicians and artists drew inspiration from unseen structures, and sensitive individuals felt a protective presence guiding their actions. Humanity was awakening, emotionally, spiritually, and instinctively, alongside the Guardian, preparing for a galaxy that had been arrogant for far too long. Alien fleets, paralyzed by fear, hesitated near Earth. Every attempt to act resulted in failures beyond explanation. Engines stalled, instruments misread, and visions of glowing chambers and living structures filled minds with dread. Pride, once thought unshakable, crumbled. The first warning had passed. The second had been delivered. And now, the third, the steady, subtle, inescapable influence of a Guardian ancient and patient, was shaping the galaxy, teaching it that humans were not ordinary and Earth was never weak. The Guardian did not act with violence. Its power lay in influence, preparation, and demonstration. Yet the galaxy sensed it clearly. Fear spread quietly, relentlessly. Humans felt a connection, awakening their intuition, instincts, and emotional awareness. Alien fleets were immobilized, unsure how to respond. And the planet itself, alive with intelligence and ancient purpose, held its breath, waiting for the moment the universe would learn the full truth. Earth was not a secret, humans were never weak, and the Guardian had awakened to protect them. The galaxy had entered a new era. The arrogance of empires was tempered by fear. The curiosity of explorers was tempered by caution. And the humans, still unaware of their full potential, were being prepared by a force older than memory, wiser than civilizations, and infinitely patient. The awakening had begun, and nothing would ever be the same. The galaxy had begun to understand that Earth was no ordinary planet. Alien fleets that once floated confidently through space now hovered in fear, instruments failing, calculations useless, and crew members whispering of visions that defied understanding. But while fear spread across the stars, a quieter, more profound awakening was taking place on Earth itself. The Guardian, ancient and patient, began to form a connection, not just with the planet, but with the humans who called it home. It reached out, not with force, but with subtle guidance, touching hearts, minds, and instincts. A silent bond was forming, emotional and spiritual, and the humans were beginning to feel its presence in ways they could not yet explain. Children were the first to sense it. They spoke in whispers of glowing tunnels beneath their feet, of chambers pulsing with light, and of guardians watching over them. Some dreamed of walking through corridors made of energy, of standing before a presence immense and alive, yet benevolent. When they awoke, their hearts pounded with a mixture of fear and wonder, and they could not shake the feeling that the planet itself was aware of them, protecting them, and guiding them toward something greater. Their parents dismissed these dreams as imagination, but the children knew otherwise. Something unseen, ancient, and powerful had reached out and touched them, forming a bond that would shape the destiny of humanity. Scientists, naturally curious and skeptical, began noticing patterns that defied conventional understanding. Energy readings deep underground pulsed in perfect synchronization with subtle shifts in the Earth's magnetic field. Instruments recorded fluctuations that could not be explained by known physics. Some researchers experienced sudden, inexplicable insight, breakthroughs that came not from logic or calculation, but from intuition. When they shared these insights with colleagues, they were met with disbelief, yet the results were undeniable. Humanity was beginning to awaken alongside the Guardian, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, as if the planet itself were teaching them to perceive a universe they had underestimated. Across oceans and continents, ordinary humans began feeling subtle changes. Some experienced a quiet sense of protection, as if unseen eyes watched over them. Others felt a surge of intuition, guiding decisions in ways that felt instinctive rather than learned. Even people who had never been sensitive to energy or dreams began noticing patterns in nature, subtle cues in the behavior of animals, and vibrations beneath their feet that they could not explain. Slowly, humanity was forming a connection with the Guardian, a bond that was silent, emotional, and profound. In orbit, alien fleets were still reeling from the anomalies and visions they had witnessed. Instruments failed. Engines faltered. Time seemed to stretch and twist unpredictably. Pilots reported seeing tunnels, glowing chambers, and shapes that seemed to breathe, watching their every move. Commanders tried to maintain control, but hesitation and fear spread through the ranks. Some whispered that the planet itself was alive, that the humans were not alone, and that something beyond comprehension was guiding every anomaly they encountered. Pride had been shattered, arrogance replaced by caution, and fear now tempered every decision. The Guardian's power was not in destruction, but in awareness. It could feel every thought, every emotion, and every intention, not just of humans, but of the alien intruders as well. It measured curiosity, fear, aggression, and pride, shaping the environment and subtle phenomena in response. Ships that approached too closely experienced gravitational distortions, energy fields that interfered with engines, and visions that unsettled even the most disciplined pilots. Communications became unreliable, instruments reported impossible readings, and crews questioned their own senses. The galaxy had never faced a force like this before, patient, intelligent, and entirely invisible. Humans sensitive to its presence began to feel a growing sense of purpose. Dreams became vivid and symbolic, showing energy patterns beneath the earth, glowing chambers, and structures that seemed alive. Children spoke of guidance, adults reported intuition, and scientists discovered phenomena that expanded understanding beyond current knowledge. The Guardian's influence was subtle yet powerful, preparing humanity for challenges they had never imagined. It taught through emotion, instinct, and vision, not through words or direct interference, forming a bond that would define the future of the planet. Alien fleets, observing from afar, were increasingly unnerved. Every attempt to analyze the anomalies resulted in confusion. Instruments failed. Data became contradictory. Pilots experienced visions, not just of energy and chambers, but of guardians, forms massive, intelligent, and protective, watching their every move. Fear spread, not just in individuals, but across entire fleets. Leaders struggled to maintain control, yet hesitation and uncertainty dominated every decision. The galaxy, proud and arrogant for centuries, had learned humility in the presence of something beyond comprehension. The bond between humans and the Guardian deepened. People began to sense subtle guidance in their daily lives. Children, particularly attuned to energy, noticed invisible currents, subtle vibrations, and protective patterns in nature. Animals responded to these signals, coordinating in ways that reflected unseen intelligence. Humans began to notice synchronicity in events, small coincidences that guided actions and decisions, hinting at a larger design. Slowly, emotionally, spiritually, and instinctively, the planet was teaching them, connecting with them, and preparing them for a reality where the galaxy would no longer underestimate Earth. The Guardian's awareness expanded further, connecting with human consciousness in ways that were subtle but profound. Emotions became heightened. Intuition sharpened. Dreams delivered insights. Humans began noticing the behavior of animals, the flow of rivers, the patterns of storms, and the vibrations of the earth. These signs were not random. They were communication, guidance, and protection. Those attuned to the Guardian could feel the planet's heartbeat, sense its awareness, and understand its silent intentions. This bond, though invisible, would grow stronger as the galaxy's attention on Earth intensified. Alien observers tried to make sense of it. Ships failed to operate correctly, calculations were unreliable, and every attempt to probe the planet's surface met with inexplicable resistance. Officers reported visions of glowing structures, immense guardians, and energy patterns that defied understanding. Pride gave way to fear. Curiosity was tempered with caution. Even the most advanced technology proved ineffective against a consciousness that was patient, intelligent, and fully aware of every action and thought. The galaxy realized, slowly and painfully, that Earth and its humans were no longer to be dismissed. On Earth, ordinary life continued, but subtle changes grew stronger. Humans began noticing patterns in their dreams, instincts guiding actions, and a sense of protection that they could not explain. Children and sensitive individuals saw visions of glowing chambers, pulsing energy lines, and forms of light that seemed alive. Scientists made discoveries that defied conventional understanding. Artists, musicians, and thinkers began producing work inspired by unseen structures and patterns. Humanity, unknowingly, was forming a silent bond with the Guardian, an emotional and spiritual connection that would guide them in the trials to come. The Guardian did not intervene directly in human affairs but prepared them subtly. It taught them to sense, to perceive, and to understand, forming the first layer of awareness that would be crucial when the galaxy realized the true power of Earth. Children learned instinctively, adults gained clarity in unexpected ways, and humans began to experience emotional growth that transcended ordinary understanding. The bond was silent, but it was real, profound, and irreversible. Alien fleets, meanwhile, hesitated at every approach. Every calculation failed, every instrument malfunctioned, and every pilot experienced visions and auditory phenomena that left them shaken. The Guardian's influence was undeniable. It was not aggression that immobilized them, but awareness. The planet itself, alive and intelligent, had made its presence known, forming a shield of observation and subtle guidance that no technology could overcome. Fear spread across the galaxy, tempered by awe and an unspoken realization that Earth was never weak, and humans were never ordinary. The silent bond deepened. Dreams, intuition, and emotional awareness continued to strengthen. Humans began noticing synchronicity in events, animals acting with purpose, and patterns in nature that guided them subtly. Children became instinctively attuned to hidden threats and opportunities. Scientists discovered phenomena that hinted at knowledge far beyond current understanding. Musicians and artists drew inspiration from structures and rhythms that mirrored the Guardian's influence. The humans were awakening emotionally, spiritually, and instinctively, bound silently to the planet and the force that had protected them for millennia. The galaxy had learned humility. Alien leaders recognized the consequences of arrogance and underestimation. Fleets hesitated. Pilots trembled. Even the most experienced strategists admitted that Earth was not ordinary, that humans were not alone, and that the Guardian had awakened. Yet the humans themselves remained largely unaware of the full scale, their awakening unfolding subtly, emotionally, and spiritually. The Guardian watched, patient and deliberate. Every pulse, every dream, every subtle shift in nature was part of a plan. It did not strike. It did not dominate. It formed a bond, preparing humanity for a future where they would need courage, awareness, and understanding. And in this silent bond, humans would discover their strength, their potential, and the undeniable truth that Earth was never weak, and they were never ordinary. The galaxy held its breath, alien fleets hesitant, empires recalculating, and humans slowly awakening. The first bonds had been formed, silent and emotional, preparing the stage for events that would change the universe forever. The Guardian had chosen its allies carefully, the children, the sensitive, the intuitive, and the unaware, connecting them in ways that would shape the destiny of humanity and the galaxy itself. The silence of Earth had been deliberate, patient, and deceptive. For millennia, the planet had concealed its true nature, hiding an intelligence so ancient that the galaxy had long forgotten its existence. But now, the Guardian beneath the surface had grown fully aware, its consciousness expanding like ripples across the oceans, mountains, and the very crust of the world. Every pulse it emitted was a heartbeat of awakening, subtle yet powerful, touching every living thing, every thought, every emotion, and every instinct. The first signs were nearly imperceptible, unseen energy shifts, vibrations in the ground, subtle synchronizations in nature, but slowly, inevitably, the awakening pulse began to reach beyond Earth itself, sending tremors across the galaxy that could not be ignored. Alien fleets stationed near the solar system were the first to feel it. Instruments that had once been precise and reliable now produced contradictory data. Navigation systems faltered. Engines sputtered despite flawless maintenance. Communications arrays crackled and failed, leaving ships isolated and crews disoriented. Pilots reported visions that could not be explained, corridors of light stretching deep underground, immense chambers pulsating with energy, and forms that seemed alive, observing, and intelligent. Fear spread silently through fleets like a contagion, as every experienced officer realized the limits of their understanding. Every calculation made, every strategy devised, was being challenged by a force they could not see, measure, or anticipate. On Earth, the Guardian's influence began to manifest more overtly. Animals reacted to its pulses with uncanny coordination. Flocks of birds flew in complex formations that defied instinct, Herds of land animals moved in precise synchrony, and predators altered behavior as if following an invisible guide. Even the oceans seemed to respond, waves rising and falling in rhythm with the Guardian's energy, currents shifting in patterns that human instruments could barely record. Sensitive humans began to notice subtle changes in their environment, whispers in the wind, vibrations beneath their feet, and the quiet sense of being watched and protected. Children, particularly receptive to energy, became the first true witnesses of the awakening pulse. They dreamed vividly of glowing tunnels and chambers beneath the earth, structures alive with light, energy, and intention. Some spoke aloud of guardians, immense and protective, who guided them silently. They drew intricate patterns on paper, unaware that the shapes mirrored the energy flows deep underground. Adults dismissed these visions as imagination or coincidence, but the children knew otherwise. Something unseen, ancient, and powerful had reached out to them, forming a connection that was as emotional as it was instinctive. Scientists noticed the anomalies, though they could not yet comprehend them fully. Instruments recorded energy fluctuations that defied known physics. Magnetic fields shifted unpredictably, while subtle pulses from the Earth's core synchronized with measurements across distant continents. The Guardian's presence inspired intuition, breakthroughs, and understanding that could not be explained logically. Humans were beginning to sense the pulse, emotionally and spiritually, even as most remained unaware of the full extent of the awakening. Their instincts sharpened, their perceptions heightened, and a quiet sense of unity with their planet began to form. Alien observers, meanwhile, were growing increasingly unsettled. Pilots reported time seeming to distort, lights bending unnaturally, and instruments registering phenomena beyond calculation. Officers argued, recalculated, and tried to impose order, but their efforts failed. Every fleet that approached the planet experienced anomalies that seemed intelligent, deliberate, and precise. Communication systems faltered, sensors recorded impossible readings, and visions of immense chambers, glowing lines of energy, and unseen guardians filled minds with fear. Even the most technologically advanced civilizations realized the painful truth: Earth was no ordinary planet, humans were not alone, and the Guardian was fully awake. The awakening pulse did not strike, but its presence was undeniable. It was a rhythm, a heartbeat that connected all life on Earth, linking humans to animals, to nature, and to the hidden consciousness beneath their feet. Dreams, intuition, and instinct all began to resonate with the Guardian's energy. Children experienced guidance, scientists felt sudden insights, and artists and musicians drew inspiration from unseen patterns. Humanity was being prepared, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally, for challenges that were yet to come. Alien fleets hesitated, paralyzed by fear and uncertainty. Every attempt to act produced new anomalies. Engines stalled, navigation systems produced conflicting results, and crew members experienced visions and auditory phenomena that left them shaken. Pride was replaced by fear, arrogance by hesitation. Commanders struggled to maintain authority, yet every calculation, every command, was undermined by the invisible hand of the Guardian. Across the galaxy, the awakening pulse sent a clear message: underestimate Earth at your peril, for the humans were never weak, and the planet was never ordinary. On Earth, subtle signs grew stronger. The Guardian's influence shaped emotions, instincts, and perceptions. People began noticing patterns in nature and in the behavior of animals. They felt the pulse beneath their feet, a heartbeat of intelligence, guidance, and protection. Children became more aware of unseen forces, animals responded with coordinated precision, and sensitive humans experienced visions that seemed to unlock intuition and understanding. The awakening pulse connected them all, forming a network of awareness that would become humanity's greatest strength. The Guardian extended its awareness into space, observing alien fleets, measuring intentions, and shaping phenomena to warn intruders. Ships that attempted reconnaissance experienced gravitation distortions, energy surges, and visions of glowing chambers and guardians. Pilots trembled, instruments malfunctioned, and communication systems failed. Even the most advanced technology was powerless against the subtle, intelligent influence of the Guardian. Across the galaxy, whispers of Earth's true power began to circulate, turning arrogance into fear and caution. Humans continued their lives largely unaware, yet emotionally and instinctively they began to sense the awakening pulse. Children noticed invisible guides, adults experienced moments of sudden clarity, and scientists made discoveries beyond conventional physics. Dreams became a language of the Guardian, conveying guidance, warnings, and understanding in symbolic and emotional forms. The humans were awakening alongside their planet, forming a bond that would prepare them for the challenges that the galaxy had long ignored. Alien fleets, paralyzed by fear and uncertainty, slowly began to retreat. Every attempt to probe Earth's defenses was met with subtle but undeniable resistance. Ships stalled, sensors reported impossible anomalies, and visions filled minds with dread. Fear became the dominant emotion, replacing curiosity, aggression, and pride. The galaxy began to realize that Earth and its inhabitants were not merely alive, they were protected by a consciousness older and wiser than any civilization, capable of anticipating and responding to threats with unmatched precision. The Guardians' influence deepened, forming connections not only with children, scientists, and sensitive humans but also with the planet itself. Rivers pulsed with subtle energy, forests responded to the Guardians' guidance, and storms shifted in patterns that hinted at intelligence. Humans felt an instinctive connection, sensing protection, guidance, and purpose without fully understanding why. Slowly, emotionally, and spiritually, they were awakening to their planet's secret, preparing for the coming reckoning with the galaxy that had long dismissed them. Across the stars, the awakening pulse echoed, subtle yet undeniable. Alien empires reconsidered their strategies, fleets hesitated, and whispers of fear spread. Even the most advanced civilizations recognized that Earth was no ordinary planet, humans were not weak, and the Guardian had fully awakened. The pulse was a silent message, a warning, a preparation, and a demonstration of power that required no weapons, no fleets, and no violence. Pride had been replaced by fear, arrogance by respect, and the galaxy began to learn a lesson it could not ignore. On Earth, the humans continued to experience subtle guidance and protection. Children, sensitive individuals, and scientists became more attuned to energy, intuition, and the Guardian's influence. Dreams grew vivid, visions revealed hidden patterns, and instinctive understanding deepened. Humanity was forming a bond with the planet, emotional and spiritual, preparing them to face the challenges that would soon confront the galaxy. Every heartbeat, every pulse, every subtle anomaly reinforced the awakening pulse, linking humans, nature, and the ancient consciousness beneath the Earth. The Guardian did not act aggressively. Its power lay in awareness, influence, and preparation. It touched hearts, minds, and instincts, forming connections that were emotional, spiritual, and intuitive. The galaxy trembled, fleets hesitated, and humans slowly awakened to their true potential. The awakening pulse had begun, a rhythm that would grow stronger, connecting Earth and its people in ways the universe had never witnessed. The galaxy had been warned, subtly yet unmistakably. Humans were no longer passive observers. Earth was no longer ordinary. And the Guardian, patient and precise, had begun preparing the planet and its inhabitants for the challenges that lay ahead. The awakening pulse spread silently, emotionally, and relentlessly, a heartbeat of power, protection, and awakening that would forever change the fate of the galaxy. The Guardian's awareness had grown beyond expectation, expanding through the Earth's crust, oceans, and atmosphere, reaching into the minds and hearts of its humans. Every pulse it sent carried not only energy, but guidance, warning, and subtle emotion. It connected with life in a way no one could see, touching instincts, dreams, and intuition. Animals moved in synchrony as though guided by an unseen conductor. Children spoke of glowing chambers beneath the ground, corridors lined with pulsing energy, and beings of immense light watching over them. Adults dismissed these accounts, calling them imagination, yet the truths could not be hidden. The planet was alive, and the Guardian's reach extended to every living thing. Alien fleets that had approached the solar system felt the effects immediately. Ships drifted off course as instruments produced readings that contradicted one another. Engines faltered, energy conduits surged unpredictably, and communications failed. Crews reported visions of immense underground chambers filled with light, pulsating lines of energy, and shapes that seemed intelligent and aware. Every pilot, officer, and strategist sensed that the planet itself was watching, analyzing, and responding to their presence. Fear spread through fleets like wildfire, quiet yet relentless. Every plan, every calculation, every thought of attack or intrusion was met with invisible resistance. The galaxy realized that Earth's defenses were not built, they were alive. Humans remained largely unaware of the full scale of the Guardian's power, yet many began sensing it in emotional ways. Dreams became vivid, guiding insights into natural patterns, energy flows, and hidden structures beneath the Earth. Children, naturally sensitive, began to perceive invisible corridors of light, tunnels filled with energy, and protective forms that watched over them. Scientists began to experience flashes of understanding, solving problems and unlocking discoveries that had previously eluded logic. Artists and musicians felt inspiration that transcended the ordinary, drawing from rhythms and patterns that seemed alive. Humanity, slowly and unknowingly, was awakening alongside its guardian. The Guardian's influence was not violent, yet it commanded attention. Alien fleets that tried to approach or analyze Earth found themselves immobilized, instruments failing, engines faltering, and visions filling their minds. Commanders struggled to maintain control, yet their crews were frightened, disoriented, and questioning their senses. Time seemed to warp. Light bent unpredictably. Energy flows defied measurement. Pilots reported hearing soft pulses, like a heartbeat, resonating through their ships, connecting them to something vast, ancient, and intelligent. Pride faltered. Arrogance faded. Fear and caution replaced certainty. The galaxy was learning humility. On Earth, the Guardian's reach deepened. Animals continued to coordinate in precise ways that defied explanation. Birds flew in complex formations that mirrored energy flows beneath the surface. Land animals moved as if guided by invisible currents. Oceanic life responded to vibrations that humans could barely measure. Even the wind and rivers seemed to move with intention, subtly shaping weather patterns and environmental rhythms. Humans sensitive to intuition or energy began to notice these patterns, developing instincts they could not fully explain. Their perception of the world expanded emotionally and spiritually, unknowingly preparing them for the trials the galaxy would soon bring. Children were the first to communicate the Guardian's subtle lessons. They described glowing structures beneath mountains, rivers of energy running through the earth, and beings of immense light watching silently. They spoke of guidance that led them away from danger and towards understanding, often drawing intricate diagrams that mirrored underground energy lines. Adults dismissed these accounts as fanciful stories, yet the Guardian ensured that their influence was growing. Dreams, intuition, and emotion connected humans to the pulse beneath the earth, forming a bond invisible but real, subtle but undeniable. Alien observers found that no technology could match the Guardian's reach. Every approach, every scan, every intrusion was met with anomalies they could not explain. Ships stalled mid-orbit. Sensors produced impossible readings. Communications arrays became unreliable. Pilots experienced visions, not merely of tunnels and energy lines, but of intelligent guardians, vast and protective, watching their every move. Fear spread across fleets like an invisible tide. Pride and arrogance, once unshakable, eroded under the weight of something that could not be measured, resisted, or understood. Humans continued to experience subtle shifts in perception. Instincts sharpened. Dreams offered guidance. Artists, scientists, and musicians discovered patterns and energies that inspired breakthroughs, creativity, and understanding beyond conventional means. Children became increasingly aware of unseen forces, responding to danger and opportunity with instinctive clarity. The Guardian's reach was emotional as well as physical, touching hearts and minds, preparing humanity for the coming revelations that would shake the galaxy. The Guardian's awareness extended beyond Earth itself, probing alien minds subtly. Fleets attempting espionage, sabotage, or reconnaissance were disrupted. Instruments failed. Calculations produced contradictions. Crew members experienced visions, auditory phenomena, and intuitive warnings that left them trembling. Every attempt to impose order was undermined by the invisible intelligence beneath the planet. Across the galaxy, whispers spread of Earth's true power, generating awe, fear, and respect in equal measure. The silent bond between humans and the Guardian strengthened daily. The planet's heartbeat pulsed through dreams, intuition, and emotional awareness, connecting children, scientists, and sensitive individuals to its vast consciousness. Humans were learning instinctively, guided by subtle signals, prepared emotionally and spiritually for the challenges they had yet to face. The Guardian's influence did not force obedience but inspired understanding, respect, and trust. Humanity was awakening, not just physically, but in heart, mind, and soul. Alien fleets, paralyzed by fear, hesitated near Earth. Every attempt to probe the planet was met with resistance. Ships faltered, instruments failed, and visions filled the minds of intruders with awe and dread. The Guardian's reach was everywhere yet invisible, subtle yet undeniable. Pride faltered. Curiosity warred with caution. The galaxy began to recognize the truth. Humans were not weak, Earth was not ordinary, and the Guardian had awakened fully, with a reach that extended across the planet and into the hearts and minds of those who sought to challenge it. On Earth, humans felt a quiet shift. Instincts became sharper. Dreams carried guidance. Children perceived patterns of energy. Scientists discovered phenomena beyond current understanding. Artists and musicians drew inspiration from unseen rhythms and structures. The Guardian's reach was emotional, spiritual, and instinctive, guiding humanity toward awareness of its own potential. Humanity was forming a bond with its planet, invisible yet profound, subtle yet undeniable, preparing them for the galaxy's confrontation with the truth they had long ignored. The Guardian's pulse extended into space, touching alien fleets with subtle resistance and unshakable presence. Pilots reported impossible phenomena. Officers questioned reality. Every attempt to approach Earth resulted in failure, disorientation, or inexplicable visions. The galaxy's arrogance had been tested, and the first lesson had been delivered. Fear spread, tempered by awe, as civilizations realized the humans were not alone, the planet was not ordinary, and the Guardian's reach extended beyond imagination. The humans, unaware of the full scale, were nonetheless awakening alongside the Guardian. Children, sensitive individuals, and scientists began noticing guidance, protection, and connection that transcended ordinary perception. Animals acted in concert with unseen forces. Nature moved in patterns that hinted at intelligence. Dreams became a language of insight and preparation. Humanity was forming a bond with its planet, emotional, spiritual, and instinctive, ready for the reckoning the galaxy would face. Alien leaders, despite their pride and technology, recognized their limitations. Fleets hesitated. Commanders doubted their instruments. Pilots reported visions that defied explanation. Communication failed. The galaxy, arrogant for millennia, had learned humility. Earth's Guardian had reached beyond its surface, touching minds, hearts, and instincts, forming a presence that was subtle, silent, yet absolute. Pride had been replaced by fear, arrogance by respect, and curiosity by caution. The humans were awakening alongside the planet, and the galaxy had no choice but to take notice. The Guardian's reach was complete. Its influence extended through the planet, into human consciousness, and across space to alien observers. Fear, respect, and awe spread across the stars. Humans were awakening emotionally, spiritually, and instinctively, forming a bond with the ancient intelligence beneath them. The galaxy had been warned, subtly yet unmistakably. The humans were not weak, the Earth was not ordinary, and the Guardian's reach was absolute. The awakening pulse had begun. Its effects rippled across the planet and into the galaxy. Alien fleets hesitated. Humanity's connection with the Guardian deepened. Dreams, intuition, instincts, and subtle guidance prepared humans for the trials ahead. And beneath the surface of Earth, patient, ancient, and intelligent, the Guardian waited, its reach complete, its bond unbreakable, ready to defend the planet and its people, and to show the universe that they were never weak, and Earth was never ordinary. The galaxy trembled as Earth's Guardian prepared to reveal its full strength. For millennia, humans had been underestimated, ignored, dismissed as weak and insignificant. Entire empires had laughed at the idea that this blue and green world could hold any secret, yet that arrogance had blinded them to the truth. Humanity was never weak, and Earth was never ordinary. Every anomaly, every mysterious pulse, every failed attempt at intrusion had been a warning, a test, a prelude to what was coming. And now, the time of reckoning had arrived. Alien fleets positioned near the solar system grew restless, their fear mounting with every passing moment. Instruments failed. Calculations became contradictory. Pilots reported visions of vast chambers beneath the Earth, glowing with energy, filled with forms alive and intelligent, watching and measuring every movement. Communication systems faltered, leaving ships isolated. Officers argued, recalculated, and hesitated, but every attempt to advance only triggered further anomalies. Engines stuttered. Weapons misfired. Sensors reported energy readings that defied comprehension. The galaxy, once confident in its superiority, was forced to confront a reality it had ignored for far too long. On Earth, the humans remained largely unaware of the full scale of events, yet their instincts, emotions, and intuition had sharpened. Children, sensitive and perceptive, reported visions of corridors filled with light, glowing tunnels, and immense guardians standing watch. They spoke of guidance in dreams, of paths illuminated in darkness, and of protective forces leading them away from danger. Adults dismissed these visions as imagination, yet subtle shifts in their environment confirmed that something extraordinary was stirring beneath the surface. The Guardian's presence touched every life, shaping perception, emotion, and awareness, preparing humanity for the challenges that would soon confront the galaxy. The first overt signs of the Guardian's power became visible in the sky. Alien fleets hovering near Earth's atmosphere observed flashes of light across the night side of the planet, patterns that defied logic, synchronized in ways that suggested deliberate design. Magnetic fields fluctuated unpredictably. Gravitational anomalies caused ships to drift off course. Communications scrambled. Pilots reported a sensation of being observed, watched, measured, not by weapons, but by an intelligence that was alive, patient, and ancient. Fear spread across crews like wildfire, quiet yet unstoppable. Pride shattered. Arrogance faded. The galaxy began to grasp that the blue planet they had dismissed for centuries was not just alive, it was aware. Beneath the Earth's surface, the Guardian's consciousness pulsed with growing intensity. Energy lines stretched like veins through the crust, oceans, and mantle, connecting every mountain, river, forest, and city. Its awareness touched humans subtly but profoundly, influencing dreams, intuition, and instinct. Scientists reported breakthroughs beyond reason. Musicians and artists created works inspired by patterns they could not see, and children perceived hidden structures beneath their feet. The Guardian's influence was not forceful, but precise, shaping the emotional, spiritual, and instinctive growth of humanity. Alien fleets attempted to respond, but their technology was useless against awareness itself. Weapons misfired, energy shields fluctuated, engines faltered, and communication systems failed. Pilots experienced visions of tunnels, chambers, and forms of immense light that seemed alive, intelligent, and observing. Even the most disciplined officers could not maintain control as fear spread across ranks. Their confidence crumbled. Their calculations were useless. Their arrogance evaporated. The galaxy was learning a hard lesson: humans were never ordinary, and Earth was never weak. The Guardian's reach extended further. Every pulse touched not only humans but the environment itself. Animals acted with heightened intelligence, herds moving in intricate coordination, birds flying in patterns that mirrored underground energy flows, and marine life navigating in unison with unseen currents. Humans who were sensitive to energy or intuition began to notice these subtle changes, feeling the pulse beneath the ground, sensing guidance and protection they could not explain. Children instinctively avoided danger, scientists made discoveries beyond logic, and ordinary humans experienced heightened awareness, emotions, and instinctive understanding. Humanity was awakening fully, emotionally, spiritually, and instinctively. Alien fleets tried to advance, but every move was countered not by weapons, but by subtle, intelligent influence. Ships drifted unpredictably. Instruments produced contradictory data. Energy readings spiked and fell without explanation. Pilots saw visions of immense guardians watching them, corridors of energy beneath the planet, and pulsing chambers alive with consciousness. Communication arrays became unreliable. Fear, subtle yet relentless, spread through crews. Pride had vanished. Arrogance was replaced by hesitation. The galaxy was confronted with an intelligence it could not measure, challenge, or comprehend. On Earth, humans began to perceive the Guardian in new ways. Dreams became vivid maps of energy and hidden structures beneath the surface. Children spoke of guidance that led them away from danger, adults experienced intuitive insights, and scientists unlocked mysteries of physics, energy, and natural patterns that had previously eluded understanding. The planet itself seemed alive, protective, and aware, and the humans were forming a bond with it, emotional, instinctive, and spiritual. The Guardian was preparing them for the moment when the galaxy would test the true limits of their resilience. Alien leaders struggled to maintain control. Ships faltered, calculations failed, and crew members experienced visions that left them trembling. The galaxy's arrogance had been challenged, humility forced upon civilizations that believed themselves supreme. Every attempt to understand Earth's defenses only confirmed their lack of knowledge. Instruments malfunctioned. Pilots questioned reality. Officers debated orders while fleets drifted aimlessly. The Guardian did not attack but demonstrated that its awareness alone was enough to render even the most advanced fleets powerless. The Guardian's pulses grew stronger, extending through Earth's atmosphere and into orbit. Subtle energy fields influenced gravitational patterns, disrupted electronics, and projected visions into the minds of intruders. The alien fleets, disoriented and fearful, witnessed phenomena that defied every law of physics they knew. Time seemed to warp. Light bent unpredictably. Energy surged and waned with precision that suggested deliberate intelligence. Pride, once considered unshakable, crumbled. Fear and/or replaced confidence. The galaxy had been warned, but now, the Guardian's presence demanded acknowledgement. Humans felt the shift deeply. Instincts sharpened. Dreams guided decisions. Children, sensitive to the planet's energy, acted with clarity, avoiding danger and perceiving unseen patterns. Scientists achieved breakthroughs that unlocked previously impossible knowledge. Artists and musicians drew inspiration from structures, rhythms, and pulses they could not consciously understand. Humanity was forming a connection with the Guardian that was invisible but profound, emotional, and instinctive, preparing them for the confrontation the galaxy would soon demand. Alien fleets attempted to retreat, but the Guardian's influence did not allow easy escape. Energy fluctuations, gravitational anomalies, and visions disrupted every attempt. Ships stalled mid-orbit. Communications failed. Pilots saw forms of immense guardians, corridors of light, and pulsing chambers beneath the planet. Fear spread through ranks, subtle and relentless. The galaxy realized that the humans were not alone, the planet was not ordinary, and the Guardian had fully awakened. Every fleet, every empire, every leader understood that the age of arrogance had ended. The Guardian's influence extended not only to humans and animals but to the planet itself. Rivers, mountains, forests, and oceans pulsed with subtle intelligence. Weather patterns shifted in synchronized patterns. Animals moved in coordination with unseen currents. Humans felt emotional, spiritual, and instinctive guidance, linking them silently to the consciousness beneath their feet. The planet's pulse was a heartbeat of preparation, protection, and awareness, touching all life and preparing humanity for the galactic reckoning that was unfolding. Alien fleets hesitated, immobilized by fear and uncertainty. Every attempt to advance produced failure. Weapons misfired. Engines stalled. Sensors provided contradictory information. Pilots experienced visions that filled their minds with awe and dread. Commanders could not maintain control. Pride had been replaced by fear, arrogance replaced by caution. The galaxy had learned, slowly and painfully, that Earth's humans were not ordinary, and the Guardian's awakening was absolute. The Guardian's awareness, subtle yet overwhelming, connected humanity and the planet, forming a bond invisible but undeniable. Dreams, instincts, intuition, and emotion linked people to the pulse beneath their feet. Children sensed unseen forces. Scientists discovered phenomena beyond comprehension. Artists and musicians drew inspiration from patterns that mirrored the planet's energy flows. Humanity was awakening fully, emotionally, spiritually, and instinctively, ready for the moment when the galaxy would confront the true power it had ignored for millennia. The awakening reckoning had begun. Alien fleets hovered helplessly. Humans, silently connected to their planet, experienced dreams, intuition, and guidance from a consciousness older than memory, wiser than civilizations, and infinitely patient. The Guardian had prepared them, emotionally, spiritually, and instinctively. Every pulse, every vibration, every subtle phenomenon was a lesson, a warning, and a shield. The galaxy had been challenged, the humans had been prepared, and the stage was set for the final confrontation where Earth's true power would be revealed. The galaxy watched, trembling, as the true power of Earth revealed itself. For millennia, humans had been underestimated, dismissed as weak and insignificant. Entire empires had scorned the planet, laughing at the notion that it held any secret, yet that arrogance had blinded them to the truth. Humanity was never ordinary, and Earth was never weak. The Guardian, ancient, patient, and intelligent, had awakened fully. Its pulse extended through every living thing, every mountain, every ocean, every storm, and every human heart. Every pulse carried not violence, but awareness, preparation, and connection. The Guardian had grown beyond the limitations of the planet, reaching into the minds, emotions, and instincts of humans, and now it was time to show the galaxy what had been hidden for millennia. Alien fleets hovering near the solar system felt the Guardians' full presence. Instruments failed catastrophically. Navigation systems produced impossible readings. Engines stalled, shields faltered, and communication systems became utterly unreliable. Pilots experienced visions that were no longer subtle. Immense underground chambers of pulsing energy, corridors of light stretching for miles, and forms of Guardians, alive, intelligent, and immense, observing their every movement. Even the most disciplined officers trembled. Fear spread across ranks, quiet but relentless. Pride and arrogance, once unshakable, were replaced by hesitation, dread, and awe. The galaxy realized that Earth's secrets were not merely dormant, they were alive, aware, and ready to act. On Earth, humans felt the Guardians' awakening as a pulse of emotion and intuition that resonated through every life. Children, sensitive to energy, described visions of glowing chambers, guardians of immense light, and pathways that guided them away from danger and toward understanding. Adults experienced sudden insights that defied logic, solving problems and unlocking discoveries that had previously been impossible. Scientists observed energy flows that mirrored the Guardians' patterns, unlocking new understanding of physics, life, and consciousness. Artists and musicians drew inspiration from unseen patterns that reflected the pulse beneath the Earth. Humanity was fully awakening, emotionally, spiritually, and instinctively, forming a bond with their planet that was invisible but profound, subtle yet absolute. Alien commanders attempted to regain control, but every action was countered. Ships drifted off course. Engines failed unpredictably. Sensors reported impossible phenomena, and crew members experienced visions that left them disoriented and trembling. Attempts at communication returned only static or echoes of their own voices. The Guardians' influence reached across space, touching minds, emotions, and instincts in ways that no technology could overcome. The galaxy was learning a lesson it could not ignore. Humans were not weak, Earth was not ordinary, and the Guardians' power was absolute. Beneath the Earth, the Guardians' energy surged. Every mountain, river, and ocean pulsed with awareness. Life itself responded in harmony. Animals moved in precise coordination, birds flew in formations that mirrored energy lines, and marine life navigated unseen currents with instinctive precision. Humans experienced this influence subtly. Instincts sharpened, intuition guided decisions, dreams provided insight, and emotions resonated with the pulse beneath their feet. The bond between humanity and the Guardian had matured, forming a silent network of awareness, preparation, and protection. The planet and its people were united in purpose, ready for the reckoning that had long been coming. Alien fleets could no longer advance. Every approach was met with gravitational anomalies, energy surges, and visions of immense Guardians beneath the Earth. Pilots felt the pulse through their bodies, a heartbeat of awareness that measured intention, courage, and fear. Ships faltered. Weapons misfired. Communications broke down entirely. Officers argued, recalculated, and hesitated, but nothing could restore control. The galaxy's arrogance had been crushed by patience, intelligence, and the silent power of a planet that had waited millennia for this moment. Humans, meanwhile, began to understand the Guardian in deeper ways. Children instinctively navigated danger, scientists solved problems once thought unsolvable, and artists and thinkers perceived patterns and rhythms that revealed hidden truths about energy, consciousness, and life itself. Dreams became messages, intuitions became guidance, and the bond between humanity and their planet grew stronger with every heartbeat. Humanity had been prepared, emotionally and spiritually, for the moment when the galaxy would test their strength. The Guardian's guidance was subtle but complete, ensuring that the humans would rise to face any challenge. Alien fleets attempted to flee, but the Guardian's presence extended beyond the planet. Energy fields disrupted propulsion systems. Gravitational anomalies pulled ships off course. Instruments failed entirely. Pilots experienced visions of vast chambers, guardians of immense energy, and tunnels of light beneath the Earth. Fear and awe overwhelmed every observer. Arrogance was gone, replaced by respect, caution, and trembling uncertainty. Across the stars, civilizations whispered of Earth's awakening, recognizing for the first time the human's true potential and the Guardian's power. On Earth, the Guardian's pulse intensified. It connected humans emotionally, spiritually, and instinctively. Children perceived invisible guidance, adults received flashes of insight, and scientists made breakthroughs that expanded understanding beyond imagination. The planet itself seemed alive, protective, and intelligent. Its pulse shaped nature, guided humans, and prepared the species for what was coming. Humanity was awakening fully, not through force, but through connection, understanding, and silent preparation. Alien commanders tried to act, but the Guardian's influence extended through space, touching minds and instincts. Pilots faltered, crews argued, and fleets stalled. Ships drifted unpredictably. Every calculation failed. Vision after vision of glowing chambers, energy corridors, and intelligent guardians left crews trembling. Even the most advanced technology proved powerless against awareness itself. Across the galaxy, the truth became undeniable. Humans were never weak, Earth was never ordinary, and the Guardian had awakened fully. The Guardian's influence reached into every corner of human experience. Dreams revealed hidden energy structures. Children acted with instinctive awareness. Scientists discovered laws of physics and energy beyond their previous understanding. Artists, musicians, and thinkers drew inspiration from rhythms and patterns alive with consciousness. Humans were forming a silent bond with their planet, emotional, spiritual, and instinctive, ready for the moment when the galaxy would witness the truth of their potential. The first confrontation arrived as alien fleets approached Earth's orbit, hesitant and fearful. The Guardian responded not with destruction, but with awareness. Gravitational distortions disrupted formation. Energy surges disabled engines. Visions of immense Guardians filled the minds of intruders. Instruments failed. Ships stalled. Commanders lost control. The galaxy's arrogance had been shattered, replaced by awe, fear, and respect. Humanity, guided by the Guardian, remained calm and prepared, ready for the reckoning. The Guardian's pulse reached its crescendo. Every living being, every river, mountain, and ocean responded. Animals acted with perfect coordination. Humans, emotionally and instinctively, understood patterns, detected danger, and felt protection. Children, scientists, and sensitive individuals perceived guidance. Humanity was united with its planet, forming a silent network of awareness, intuition, and readiness. The Guardian did not strike blindly. It taught, guided, and protected, preparing humans for the ultimate moment when the galaxy would witness their power. Alien fleets could do nothing. Ships drifted off course, engines failed, weapons misfired, and instruments produced impossible readings. Pilots and officers experienced visions that shook them to the core. Glowing chambers, energy corridors, and forms of immense intelligence filled their senses. The galaxy had underestimated humans for millennia, and now it understood the truth. Earth was alive, its Guardian was awake, and humanity was no longer alone. Fear, awe, and respect replaced arrogance, pride, and aggression. On Earth, humans sensed the culmination of the Guardian's preparation. Dreams, intuition, and instinct converged, guiding them toward clarity, understanding, and purpose. Children perceived unseen corridors and guardians. Scientists unlocked knowledge beyond imagination. Artists and thinkers drew inspiration from patterns of energy and consciousness. Humanity was ready, emotionally, spiritually, and instinctively. The bond with the Guardian had matured into a force greater than any weapon, strategy, or fleet in the galaxy. The Guardian's triumph became undeniable. Alien fleets, disoriented and fearful, retreated from orbit. Ships drifted helplessly, instruments failed completely, and visions of the planet's vast underground chambers filled minds with awe. Across the galaxy, civilizations learned the truth. Humans were never weak, Earth was never ordinary, and the Guardian's power was absolute. The planet's pulse resonated across space, a silent message of strength, awareness, and eternal vigilance. Humans, united with their planet, were now fully awake. Dreams, intuition, and instincts connected them to the Guardian. Children acted with clarity, scientists solved previously impossible problems, and all humans felt the subtle protection and guidance of their planet. The galaxy had witnessed the first demonstration of Earth's true power. Pride and arrogance had been replaced by awe and respect. Humanity had been prepared, and the Guardian had triumphed without a single strike, relying on awareness, patience, and emotional connection. The galaxy understood at last. Humans were never ordinary. Earth was never weak. And the Guardian, ancient, intelligent, and alive, would protect the planet and its people for all time. The awakening had reached its peak. The reckoning was complete. Humanity, united emotionally, spiritually, and instinctively with their planet, stood ready to face the universe, not as prey, not as weaklings, but as a force of life, intelligence, and courage that no empire could ignore. The Guardians' triumph was absolute. The humans had awakened fully. The planet's pulse echoed across the stars. Alien fleets had learned humility, awe, and fear. And Earth, finally revealed in all its hidden glory, would never be dismissed again. Humanity and the Guardians stood together, silent, patient, and eternal. The galaxy had been warned. The humans were prepared. And the planet, alive and aware, had triumphed.